Hello, I'm Dan Weiss, President and CEO of the Metropolitan Museum of Art, and it is a pleasure to be speaking to you today for our first ever virtual press program. Today, in our brief program, I'll offer a few remarks before inviting Max Hollein, the Met's director, to share some insights on the exhibitions and programs we have ahead. We'll also show you some of the behind-the-scenes views of two of the new shows we'll be opening when we reopen in the next few days. Making the Met, 1870 to 2020, the centerpiece exhibition of our 150th anniversary program, and the Roof Garden Commission, Hector Zamora, Lattice Detour. Before turning to our program, I would like to reflect on this extraordinary moment in our history. As you are aware, when the museum reopens in a few days, it will be after its longest period of closure for more than 100 years. We've previously only been closed for 3 days at the most. By the time we reopen tomorrow, we will have been closed for almost 6 months, during which time our world has changed forever. The pandemic has now taken the lives of over 170,000 Americans, including 32,000 New Yorkers. Throughout this period, there have been many trying days. Among them, the day of our 150th anniversary, April 13th. We had been planning multiple celebrations for this day for more than 2 years. Yet, instead of hosting our large and diverse community, we were all sheltered at home in quarantine, listening to the news of the unfolding tragedy that the pandemic was taking 700 New Yorkers each and every day. At the Met, our first priority throughout this has been the health and safety of our staff and visitors, which is why we chose to close on March 13th, before any national or local authorities required us to do so. It is also why we've spent these last few months planning and preparing for our reopening, so that we could be ready when government officials granted us permission to reopen. And while we acknowledge that many unknowns remain, we are confident that we are properly prepared to welcome visitors back safely to this vast museum's hundreds of galleries, which are spread out over 2 million square feet. Perhaps now, more than ever, we believe that we have a responsibility to reopen, as long as we can do so with confidence that our staff and visitors will be safe and secure in a clean and well-maintained building. We also seek to lead the way for arts institutions in the city. We know that while our museum has suffered, we are a strong and resilient institution. And we are very mindful that there are a great many smaller organizations that have closed or are at further risk in this environment. It has been heartening to see how the museum community has rallied together to support one another these months. And the Met stands ready to support our fellow institutions in all ways that we can. Yet the pandemic is only one of 3 major crises that we have been facing. Our extended closure and the uncertain path ahead has had a significant impact on the museum's finances. Our revenue streams have effectively been eliminated since March. While we are not yet through this very difficult time, we are working on multiple fronts to stabilize our financial position, and we have made substantial progress. Our trustees raised $30 million for an emergency fund, and we have worked on multiple levels to manage and control expenses as we faced what we estimate to be a $150 million revenue loss through this fiscal year. While there is work ahead, and we do not know where the road may take our city, the Met is a strong institution that will continue to thrive. There is no doubt about that. At the same time, we have also been confronting, more directly than ever in our history or that of the nation as a whole, our challenges and failings on issues of racial diversity, equity, and inclusion. We are embracing this moment to take on these challenges, in large part because this is an unprecedented opportunity for us to do better. We are listening and we are determined to learn so that we can create an institution that is more inclusive, equitable, fair, and welcoming. To initiate progress, we have jump-started this effort with a list of commitments we put in place in early July. As we move ahead in implementing these commitments, we are also not going to solve We are not going to solve all of the problems before us, but it is a start in a very meaningful one. As we begin a new chapter in our history, together we can build on our historic strengths while charting a more just and welcoming path forward. I am an art historian, and I am mindful that we are living through a historic moment in the life of the museum and the world around us. The exhibition you will learn about today, Making the Met, provides a fascinating context for our moment as we consider 10 formative periods in the museum's history. To tell you more about that and so much more, I will turn it over to our director, Max Hollein.
Thank you, Dan, and hello, I'm Max Hollein, Director of the Met, and I'm thrilled to be speaking to you today from the museum's American wing, which will soon be once again enjoyed by our visitors. When we started the year, as Dan's mentioned, the museum's 150th anniversary, none of us could have imagined what the future would bring. And while we are encouraged by the progress we are making, there is still much trauma and grief to process. But through it all, art has provided us joy, comfort, and inspiration, and helped us to foster understanding and compassion, enlightening us even in the most difficult of circumstances. Just last week, we unveiled a timely new work of art on our Fifth Avenue facade, Yoko Ono's Dream Together. The urgent, poetic message was created by the artist also in response to the coronavirus pandemic, and it offers a powerful message of hope and unity to the world, and certainly also to New Yorkers. The banners are presented alongside Wangechi Muto's installation of 4 bronze sculptures, The New Ones Will Free Us, which sit in the niches of the exterior of the building, whose message seem especially prescient today. So it is with great hope that we look to the reopening, and actually really also with great excitement, and the exhibitions and displays that will be on view. In a moment, we'll go behind the scenes for a special look at Making the Met, and hear also from the artist Hector Zamora on what he's created for the Cantor Roof Garden. These new exhibitions were scheduled to open in the spring, and have been laying dormant in wait for our doors to open. So we can't wait to give you a first look. Also on Saturday, we'll be unveiling an exhibition of works by the major 20th century modernist Jacob Lawrence from his mid-1950s series, Struggle, from the history of the American people. Consisting of 30 panels, the series reimagines iconic as well as lesser-known historical episodes as a powerful visual reckoning with America's complex past. An approach that feels especially timely today amid urgent calls for social justice and ongoing dialogues regarding race and national identity. Lawrence was a frequent visitor to the Met, in addition to being represented in the collection since the early 40s. Venue co-curators Wendell Griffey in the Department of Modern Contemporary Art and Sylvia Yont, the Lawrence A. Fleischman curator in charge of the American wing, working together with education colleagues, have developed a compelling series of virtual programs that will reflect on Lawrence's life in New York City. We look forward to sharing more information about those programs in the coming weeks. I want to thank the Barry A. and Dee Dee Wigmore Foundation and the National Endowment for the Arts for making this exhibition possible. I also want to recognize our great colleagues at the Peabody Essex Museum in Salem, Massachusetts, where the exhibition was first organized. Additionally, I want to quickly highlight some of the exhibitions that we had opened just before closing, which are being extended into the fall. Photography's Last Century, which celebrates the remarkable ascendancy of photography in the last century through Anne Tannenbaum and Tom Lee's magnificent promised gift of over 60 extraordinary photographs, was on view just days before we closed, and now we are happy to reopen it again. Sahel, Art and the Empires on the Shores of the Sahara, the first exhibition of its kind and of its time to trace the cultural legacy of the legendary empires of Western Africa through spectacular loans from the region's national collections, many of which have traveled to the United States for the first time. We also want to share this with you. It also has been opened for just a couple of days. In Pursuit of Fashion, the Sandy Schreier collection, highlighting promised gifts from the pioneer and collector, Sandy Schreier. And later this fall, About Time, Fashion and Duration, our major show of the Costume Institute, which had been planned as our major spring exhibition. It will now open on October 29. And there is so much more to explore. A close look at Chinese calligraphy, cross-cultural collection displays that examine how fundamental aspects of the human experience are communicated in art from around the world, and Kent Monkman's monumental paintings commissioned for the Great Hall that explore the complexities of historic and contemporary indigenous experiences. Of course, we are aware that many of our visitors will continue to engage with us online, either in addition to a visit to the building or instead of. So the museum will keep offering robust virtual programs and activities on the website and through our various social media channels. We'll have new virtual programs, events, performances, conversations with curators, with educators and artists, and other activities will be added throughout the fall. It is now my pleasure to introduce the next segments. First, we'll hear from Andrea Bayer, Deputy Director of Collections and Administration and organizer of Making the Met 1870 to 2020, the centerpiece exhibition of our 150th anniversary year. She's going to talk with you about this spectacular exhibition, which will take visitors on a thought-provoking journey through this museum history, its high points and its blind spots, as told through some of our most stunning and meaningful objects. I'll single out just one of the objects in the exhibition now, Pablo Picasso's Woman in a Chemise in an Armchair from 1913-14. This stunning work, the only large-scale painting from the artist's late Cubist period and the only canvas from this phase representing a female nude, is the most extraordinary figurative Cubist painting by Picasso to enter the museum to date. And I'm very pleased to share with you right now that Leonard Lauder has given this critically important work to the museum in honor of our 150th anniversary. This outstanding gift is just one highlight of his spectacular collection, from which he has already pledged some 80 Cubist masterpieces to the Met. Mr. Lauder's generosity is remarkable, and we are all deeply grateful. I want to thank Andrea Bayer and her team and all of the curators, conservators, and more from every department in the museum who helped put this seminal show together. I also want to thank the Iris and B. Gerald Cantor Foundation, whose support made the exhibition possible. Iris Cantor was first elected trustee of the Met 30 years ago, and we thank her for the incredible generosity she and her late husband, Bernie Cantor, have demonstrated toward this museum. We are also most grateful to Bank of America for its lead corporate sponsorship of this exhibition, and to the Diane W. and James E. Burke Fund, the Peter J. Sharp Foundation, and the Doris Duke Fund for Publications for making possible the beautiful catalog that accompanies the show. After Andrea takes you through Making the Met, we'll hear from artist Hector Zamora on the process of creating, then pausing, and finally seeing his roof garden commission come to life. The project was conceived by the artist in consultation with Sheena Wagstaff, Leonard A. Lauder, Chairman of Modern Contemporary Art, and Iria Candela, Estrelita B. Brodsky, Curator of Latin American Art, both of the Met's Department of Modern Contemporary Art, and I want to acknowledge their vision and commitment to this important endeavor. We are grateful to Bloomberg Philanthropies for supporting the exhibition, and we also want to thank Cynthia Hazen-Polsky and Leon B. Polsky for their additional support, and the Mary C. and James W. Fosberg Publication Fund for making possible the exhibition's accompanying publications. And now, a look at the exhibitions.
Hello, I'm Andrea Bayer, Deputy Director for Collections and Administration and the organizer of Making the Met, 1870 to 2020. I'm excited to welcome you virtually for a sneak peek into this special exhibition as we work through the final days of installation. As the signature exhibition of our 150th anniversary year, Making the Met takes you on a thought-provoking journey through the museum's history. You'll find more than 250 incredible works of art from our collection, archival photographs, and innovative digital features, and you'll encounter the visionary figures and cultural forces that propelled the Met in new directions from its founding in 1870 to the present day. we decided to organize the show around 10 pivotal moments in the Met's history, moments that altered the DNA of the museum. But as we neared the show's original opening date in March, we unexpectedly found ourselves entering another one of those transformational moments. As you've heard from Max and Dan, the events of the last several months have prompted intense reflections on the role of the museum, some of which are reflected in revised labels for this show. Through it all, the staff has worked incredibly hard on this exhibition. From the early days of planning to the last few weeks of installation, it has been a tremendous team effort involving every curatorial area and numerous departments. I am grateful for everyone's collaboration and dedication. The exhibition's 10 sections are organized chronologically around a central axis, what we're calling the street. At one end of the street is a fabulous surprise, a beautiful view into Central Park through a window that has been covered up for over 20 years, serving as a reminder of how the museum's history is entwined with the evolution of New York City. The first section brings us back to the founding decades, when the Met was founded without art, a building, or professional staff. We see the initial priorities for the collection, including antiquities, excavated from Cyprus by the Met's first director, General Luigi Palma di Cesnola, and European Old Master paintings from the founding purchase of 1871. One of those paintings is Van Dyck's Saint Rosalie, protecting the city of Palermo during a plague. It has been installed in these galleries throughout the shutdown and has taken on new poignancy in the wake of the coronavirus crisis. The 1920s were another major moment for the Met. The opening of the American wing in 1924 was meant to establish a canon of good taste for the public and promote a vision of what it meant to be American. More recently, the American wing has worked to strengthen its holdings of work by historical artists of color in order to tell a more complete story of American art. In 1929, Louisine and Henry Osborne Havemeyer dramatically transformed the Met's collection with the bequest of nearly 2,000 objects, making ours one of the greatest collections of Impressionist painting and sculpture. The Met's 100th anniversary in 1970 was marked by reflection on the museum's past, present, and future. In the centennial era, we examined the museum's rededication to its encyclopedic mission through a greater commitment to non-Western and contemporary art. During this period, the Met unveiled then state-of-the-art installations dedicated to the arts of Africa, Oceania, and the Americas, to Asian art, 20th century art, and Islamic art. In the final section, Broadening Perspectives, you'll find a display of the outstanding acquisitions from the last 30 years that represent curatorial initiatives to expand the collection and reconsider categories of art previously overlooked. In this gallery, we highlight the vision for the future set forth by Max Hollein, wherein works of art are presented in rich contextual narratives in order to reveal complex social, political, and historical forces. This is just a very small taste of what Making the Met has to offer. We hope you can visit when the museum reopens, and we look forward to welcoming you back.
Yeah, well, hello. My name is Hector Zamora. I am a Mexican artist. I am commissioned to do the artwork for the roof garden for the 2020. The artwork is entitled Lattice de Tour. It's a proposal that is trying to confront you with a wall that is made by bricks in terracotta, and those bricks are turned to making this permeable. The wall is an obstacle Normally, when we think in a wall, it's something that is rigid, static, solid. And when you think in a wall made in cellulosis, it's something that is permeable, that permit the possibility to see through, and also the sunlight can go through the wall. And it brings a lot of new connotations that can be attached to the idea of a wall. And well, I am trying to reflect in this specific moment about this specific topic and this really important issue about the borders and the divisions that we are experimenting in society through politicians, through problems between countries. And it's interesting how this very simple gesture to put a big wall on the roof garden is bringing a lot of these reflections about something that is now part of our culture. The wall is also made used with earth, baked earth, something that is also very symbolic for the human culture. Is built by hand, by bricklayers. Is bringing all these reflections about the human being as the motor, the structure of our society. It's interesting, and it's not a coincidence that the bricklayers were Mexicans and other Latin American people, including Americans. I think this is also quite symbolic and important in this specific period of time. The idea of this provocation by this construction with the wall, for me, is something that I am trying to say not just to the people that is connected with art, but also to everyone that have the right to go upstairs and watch this fantastic view from New York City through this filter, through this screen, to this lattice, the tour that it will change you the perception of the reality that is beyond the museum, and bringing something that at the end is part of that space, because at the end, as the museum and as the law is considering, the roof garden is public space. And I like to share this project with everyone, because I believe that the best way to feel the artwork is to be stand next to the lattice liturgies at the roof garden. Thank you.
I hope you enjoyed these segments. As you can see, we are all so pleased and excited to be getting back to work and to be sharing our collection and our programs with the public. One such treasure that I know many are looking forward to seeing again is this remarkable structure behind me, the Temple of Dendor. It is worth noting how this brilliant monument came to be and how it came to the Met. I suppose you could say it is a great New York story. Created around 15 BC, about 2,000 years ago, along the Nile River by the Roman Emperor Augustus, it honors the Egyptian goddess Isis and two sons of a local ruler. It was, in part, a political gesture from the first Roman emperor to the Egyptian people. After 2 millennia at the ancient site of Dendor, the construction of the Aswan Dam in the 1960s would have submerged the temple and its surroundings, losing this great monument to history. In response, 50 countries around the world came together to contribute expertise, equipment, and funds, both governmental and private, to record settlements, cemeteries, fortresses, churches, and shrines, as well as to move and reinstall on safer ground 22 temples. In 1965, to recognize the United States' substantial contribution to this campaign, Egypt gifted Dendor's temple and gateway to the United States, and it was eventually awarded to the Met on the condition that this luminous gallery would be constructed to house it and that the space would always remain visible to fellow New Yorkers and others passing by, even when the museum was closed. So the temple was taken apart in Egypt, packed into 660 crates, and transported by ship, and then put back together again, block by block, at the Met, where it stands as the only ancient Egyptian temple in the United States. It has been the site of any number of school group visits, performances and programs, and even marriage proposals, one of which I quietly helped to arrange. This great monument is now, a half-century after its arrival, an iconic part of the New York cultural scene. The story of the temple, its ancient and modern histories, is about beauty, power, politics, history, and the enduring power of human expression, but also dedication, expertise, and a commitment to cultural preservation. In its own way, its presence here reflects on what the Met is all about and what our staff do every day. Before we conclude, I want to take a moment to recognize the exceptional work that has been continued during the museum's closure. There have been so many keeping watch over the museum. Our collections monitoring team, who developed a highly orchestrated system for checking on the art each and every week, and feeding the koi fish in our Chinese scholars' garden. Security and building staff, who kept the building protected and safe. Our textile conservators, who mobilized their talents to make thousands of masks that were distributed. And our new head horticulturalist at the Met Cloisters, who kept the gardens alive and thriving, even if there were very few visitors. And then there are so many more who found ways to pivot their work and keep our mission alive. That is because the Met is far more than its buildings or even its collections. It is a community of exceptional people, experts on all manner of subjects, educators, scholars, conservators, editors, administrators, maintainers, art handlers, custodians, engineers, and so many more. For over 150 years, individuals from around the world have come to the Met to connect with beautiful objects, powerful ideas, and wide-ranging cultures. Perhaps now more than ever, having weathered this long quarantine, we appreciate the ways that art can comfort and inspire us. We look forward to welcoming you back into our galleries to have that experience once again. Thank you.